Started, how to manage money. Most of you already know me. My name's Eddie Kirkendall. I work for Project Stay, one of the advisors. I know there's a few in here that I just met here recently. I know that we're in a pretty big size room, so this is kind of throwing me off a little bit. I'm looking way down there, in order to see you. One thing I like to do before we actually get started is to actually ask you, how comfortable do you feel when it comes to managing your money? Do you feel like you're at a pretty comfortable level there, or do you feel like it maybe be an issue for you? So how many believe that maybe managing money is a little bit of an issue? Okay, so Ashley, why? Why do you think it's an issue? So as we're going through here, maybe I can address some of those concerns. So what's the biggest issue you have with managing money?
When I go out to buy something,
Okay.
it's like a impulse.
So you're more of an impulse, spender in a way. So you see something out there when you're at the store, you want it, you grab it, and then you worry about maybe the consequences a little bit later on,
Yeah.
possibly.
I'll pay my bills first, but then I'm like, oh, I do that. And then I don't even think twice.
Okay. And I will tell you that we're a lot like that. One thing that we will be talking about today is our wants versus our needs. And so there's a lot of things that we want, but do we actually truly need them? So those necessities. So we are going to try to look at both of those and know what the real difference is. And so others, most of you didn't raise your hands. Most of you feel like you know what you're doing when it comes to your finances. So we're going to see. And one thing that I also have for us to look at, and I gave you a printout of, is it's through consumer.gov. It's where you can budget. You can actually go in there. I'm going to show you the PDF file here in a bit, but I just printed off a copy of it that you have, and you can actually go in there. You can save it to your computer, and you can every single month you can go in there and type in your budget, and then it will calculate all the stuff for you. And so it's a pretty nice, easy way of doing it. And it has various categories. Now, some of you may say, well, you know what? I don't really have that many bills. I'm not working hardly. Mainly it's scholarships or Pell Grant or student loans that I'm getting. Well, one of the things that you can do when we get there is you can factor in how much you're getting in the scholarships, student loans, and break that down into on an average of how you would spend that per month. And you can use that as your starting point for your income. So we'll look at all these different things and kind of discuss it. So some of the things that we're going to talk about is creating a budget, which is probably one of the hardest things to do because you're actually going to have to track your spending. You're going to have to know what you're actually spending your money on. So it normally takes a little while. I would say sometimes it can take you up to two weeks to a month to really track your spending and know exactly what you are spending. So we are going to look at that. Of course, cutting costs, because once you do know how much you're spending, then we got to go in there and evaluate and decide what are some of the areas that we can actually cut. And then, of course, we're going to listen to some of the financial experts. There are plenty of websites and experts out there that you can learn lessons from. And I'm going to give you a few things that I learned as I was in college and that I still use to this day. And then, of course, we'll wrap it all up. So, first thing, gather basic information. This is the starting point. This is where you're going to go in there. You're going to start tallying up what you are spending. One of the things that I use, and I didn't. This is a new one, so I haven't wrote this one. Is I got this at Walmart, 27 cents. And what it allows you to do is it's basically you can carry it with you, and you can write down every single thing that you spend. Possibly. You can write down whether it's food or it's a snack or maybe it's a bill or lunch or whatever it may be. That you could be jotting this down. Now, some of us, and I would say probably the majority of us, probably use our debit card a lot more. So what can you do every month? You can look at your statement of what you spent on your debit card. You can certainly do that. I'm more of a cash spender. I don't like using the debit card very often. And then the reason why I don't do that is because it makes me feel like I'm less accountable when I can just swap that card. And so, but if I have cash in my wallet, I'm a little bit more held accountable because you start to see when that cash is going low. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And so that's why I think if you have something that you can have a journal of some sort to actually write down your information of what you are spending, it does require a little bit more work, but you are going to be able to track the spending. So you've got to gather that basic information to begin with. How many of us in here actually do something similar to that? Actually jot down or keep track of what we are spending. So we've got two people, Lee. Oh, Shakura. So give me an example. How do you track it? What do you do?
Anytime, I'm more like you also, I like to use cash, because for one, I got credit cards that use them, it's a matter of you can forget to pay interest,
Yep.
so I don't like to do that much. But if I do use any purchase I make, I keep a receipt, and I'll keep them in a certain area, and write down what I spend and tally that up.
I still have like a log journal that I have from 1999 for spending. I still have that. I went back and I looked at, how I was spending back then because, I forgot all about it. It was in some box that I had. I went there and I started looking at it. I had old receipts that you couldn't even see, the ink anymore, from the receipts there because, they were just so old. And so, but yes, tracking it, and writing it down. And I think, it's almost like, if you're in school, what is it sometimes your professor tell you? You don't truly know it until you write it down. And so I think writing it down, it allows you to really fully understand what you're doing. I mean, you can use your debit card and look at your statement every month, but is that really, fully keeping you accountable and doing that? You're probably just going to skim through it, probably. And Mark is shaking his head, yes. Do you do that?
I'm a swipe and pray.
Swipe and pray. Okay. Okay. So now I know when you're up there at the line, you're doing this, you're actually praying, that it goes through.
No, that's why I bring you over there, just in case it doesn't go through. I got
No wonder you're like, hey, you ready to go get something to drink?
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's one of those things.
Now I know. So, all right. So yes. So like savings, scholarships, grants, all that stuff you can track. You can put that down because you need to know what your income is. I mean, that's important. Every single month, you need to know what you're bringing in. Most of us have close to a set in some way. I mean, you kind of can ballpark it. You may be off a couple $100, whatever it may be, but you can kind of have at least an idea where you're at. Now, when it comes to your scholarships, sometimes you're always getting new scholarships or applying for things, so that's going to change. But most of us know about what we're going to be getting after we pay our tuition and books when it comes to that. At least have a ballpark idea. You can use that. You can take that, divide that into the months, before the next, semester, before you get the next grant, Pell Grant and so forth, and use that as a monthly income. So let's say you have a rebate of, let's say, $1,000 when it's all said and done, and then you have some more from student loans. Well, you can divide that into those months that that you're going to be in school until that next January or so when you get the next month, and so you can use that as your base income if you choose. And so and the reason why I mention this is because when we look at that handout that you have, we're going to look at an example that I created. And I'll show you how that works. The next step, step 2, build a plan. You actually have to use all that information that you've been gathering for a while and actually build your plan. And you have to determine what your expenses are fixed and what are variable. Give me an example of what is a fixed bill. Car insurance? Yes. Okay, that's a good one. What else? Mark shook it. He had his hand. He was ready to go.
Mortgage.
Mortgage. So yes, mortgage, rent, whatever it may be, that you're going to be paying, whether it's $450, $500, whatever it is, a month in rent. Of course, car insurance, you mentioned. Anything else that you can kind of get close to? I mean, I would think your electric bill, you can kind of pretty much know what it's going to be, and there are plans where you can get kind of on an average where you pay every single month kind of the same thing. And so there are some areas there. Even your water bill and stuff, you can pretty much know where it's going to be. I mean, it may be off a couple of dollars probably, unless you have like a water leak or something. And so there are some things that are pretty close where you can do that. A car payment. Most of us know what the car payment is. Every month we got to make sure we have X amount for that car payment. So what is something that's a variable? What's something that's out there that you're not really going to know for sure about your expense? So let's think about it. What's that? Yeah, grocery bill, because that varies to a degree. I mean, or it could be like eating out, because everyone, maybe friends decide, hey, let's go eat out. Then you end up spending a little bit more than you did that month because you went out a few more times, there. So you can kind of ballpark it, but at the same time, you're not 100% sure where that's going to be. What else? Anything else that's more there? What's that?
Recreation.
Absolute recreation. Now that can become a fix if you choose to make it, and that's what we'll look at. But a lot of times, we kind of go on a whim, like, hey, let's go to the movies or whatever. We're going to learn about how we need to actually set a certain budget specifically for entertainment and try not to exceed that. That's going to be, something that we'll work on. So, step 3, do a test run. Like anything that you're going to do, you're going to have to practice it. And so when we talk about a test run, after you've gathered your information, you've built up your plan where you know what your fixed expenses are and the variables, then you actually got to go out there and you got to try it. So by then, you have already determined how much your monthly rent is, how much your car insurance is, how much you're spending on utilities and so forth, and you're also trying to set aside some entertainment money, specifically for that. And then you're actually going to go and try to actually implement this. That's going to be the hard part, because there will be times when you are going to make mistakes, or you're going to spend over what you had set aside for yourself. Now, what do you do if that happens? Do you quit? Because I can tell you, the majority of the people, what happens at the very beginning of the year when you set all these resolutions that you're going to do? You do it for what? 2 weeks, maybe a month, and then you start falling off. So what do? You stop going to the gym, or you stop not doing the budget, or whatever it may be. And so what you got to realize is that you're going to make mistakes along the way. It's going to happen. The question is, do you try to learn from those mistakes and start over? And so that is going to be the big test there, is actually being able to start over and adjust, for your, mistake. So if you realize that you put entertainment, you put $50 a month, and you went to $100 that month, well, you may have to say, okay, you know what? Maybe $50 was not enough. Now maybe 100 is a little too much. Can I try to find a happy medium and go with $75? So you're it's that trial and error. So you will be adjusted for that. You also should always have a miscellaneous fund. Always that miscellaneous, because things are going to come up. And so if you have that miscellaneous fund, then you can kind of work around some of those things that pop up. I mean, we're going to have car problems sometimes. We're going to have other issues that we're going to have to be able to address. But being able to have that unexpected expenses, that category will make a difference. Obviously, step 4, adjustments. I can tell you every single month I do have to go back and make adjustments all the time, because I didn't account for something, or something came up. Like I can tell you, for example, last month my car broke down. Now I actually keep I do the envelope system. The envelope system means I put I have weekly envelopes for how much cash that I'm allowed to use each week. So because I get paid once a month, my wife gets paid once a month. So as soon as we get paid, I start putting money in these envelopes. So I have week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. I typically put $200 in there, and that's my cash. And I try my best to make sure that I still have cash at the end of the week. Then I can use that money and put it in my discretionary fund. And so I'm constantly doing that. And so, but I have envelopes. So every single week, I take that envelope. I do it normally on Sunday. I swap out whatever extra money I had. I put in my discretionary envelope, and then I take the money out for that particular week. And I just try my best to always have some money left over in that week. And so envelopes, I think, work great. I like it. I have an envelope for car expenses, emergency type stuff for cars. And so when I had that car trouble last month, I still had enough left over, but it cost $1,200, to get my car fixed. And so without having that little, fund there, that means you have to go and start dipping into your savings or whatever. So it's good to kind of have these envelopes. Now, obviously, you don't want to have a ton of cash laying around your house either. So, you have to find that happy, medium about how much cash do you want to keep, with you or in a safe or at your house, where you feel comfortable. And you have to ask them how many people are coming into my house. Do you trust the people who are over there too? So you may feel more comfortable, keeping it at the bank. I just say try to keep a little bit. Maybe it's a separate checking account that's specifically for some of these expenses. So adjustments. And so what you do is just don't give up. That's the major thing. People are always they try it out for a month and then they quit. How many of us have done this before, where we tried something, we did it for 2 weeks, maybe a month, and just done? And Lee, what was that?
Well, for one, maybe not exercising.
Okay.
If you like working out, I do it basically 4, 5, 6 months, see results, and then
Yeah. So part of our mindset is that we do like to see pretty quick results, and if we're not getting those quick results, then we stop doing it in some cases. And so with money and budgeting, I don't ever think it's ever a quick fix. It's something that you constantly are dealing with every single month. And for a lot of us, it's just trying to make sure we're able to pay all of our bills every month. It's not necessarily trying to save, and put all this stuff back. And a lot of times we're living paycheck to paycheck. But I do think, what we can do is that we can find ways to cut in some areas where we can actually start saving. And it can become a lifestyle in a way. There are reasons why you see people, on TV, and they have their shows like, how many people saw like the extreme couponing or whatever it may be. You see people take it maybe a little to the extreme, but they have fun with it. It becomes their lifestyle. And so I think when it comes to budgeting, if you do it long enough, it does become part of your lifestyle. You have to do it. I see some, people I know who don't try to track anything. I couldn't do that. I could not live like that, because I've taught myself from a pretty early age that I have to do this. And so, but for others, it's not that big of a deal. And so, so you can make this an actual lifestyle, but you will make mistakes along the way. So, cutting costs. So you have to recognize first the differences between your needs and your wants. So, Mark, what is a need? What is something that you absolutely have to have? There's no exception. And I know you're taking a drink of your pop there. I would count that as a want.
No, that is a want. Actually, my biggest need is I think of it more outside of me, but like my son's lunch. Like I make his lunch every day, so even though maybe some of the things that go in it maybe wants, but the concept of making his lunch and making sure he has a lunch when he goes to school is definitely a need.
Yeah, that definitely is a need. He has to eat lunch, so now what he eats, now obviously you can, make it, a little nice, a little extra stuff, in there. And so what else? What else would be, a need? You need food every month, so you do have to have a grocery bill and food. Now, here is the other kicker. You have to have groceries, but do you have to eat out? No, you don't have to eat out. And when you eat out, how much money are you probably going to be spending? Two people going out to eat, how much are you looking at, probably, on average? 20-something, maybe $20-something, give or take, depending on where you eat, but for two people, or whatever. And especially if you have family and kids, it's going to start adding up even more than that. Even if you go to McDonald's or wherever, you're still not going to get out there super cheap. Now, ask yourself this. What if you are spending, $10, on a meal or $15, a day? It adds up. You're looking at basically, if you spend around $10 a day, you can imagine, 30-something days, in the month. It's going to start adding up. Now, do you think that you can spend less on that on a meal if you buy the groceries at home? Yeah, you're going to save a little bit more on there. Now, does that mean that you have to cut out eating out altogether? No. You set up a specific amount of money that you allow yourself each month, for, eating out. Same thing with groceries. You try to set a certain number that what you want to spend. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to go over it sometimes, but at least you kind of know what you have to spend in that area. And then you can constantly adjust a little bit here and there. And so one of the things that I had a problem with there for a while, especially when my wife and I actually were both working, we started eating out a little bit more. We were the college students, so we never ate out hardly, except for every once in a while. I primarily, did the cooking. And so, but then once we started getting jobs, it's go to corral time or something. We were going to the buffets. I tell you, it was good. And so, but then I actually had to realize, hey, I'm spending a little too much money on this. When you get that taste of a little bit of money, sometimes you go a little crazy, at first. And so you have to kind of rein yourself back in a little bit. So what would be, some wants? Give me some wants. Things that you just want to have. I can tell you mine, it's soda. I love pop. I know it's a bad expense. I'm going over there to, downstairs to Lion's Den. I'm generally getting refills, so it's 74 cents, tax and all for a refill. But I know I don't have to have that, but I want it. So give me some examples. What do you want? What's that? Energy drinks. Okay. And those are pretty expensive too, the energy drinks. So yeah, what else? What are some other things? I didn't hear you. Technology. We're in a huge room here, so what type of technology? Games, maybe? Tablets? Okay. And Lucas, because I like picking on Lucas, give me an example of a want. Okay, books are good. Okay. It's not, see, now you're making it out like, you're educated, I just want books. So, but what type of books?
Fiction, swords and sorcery.
Okay. Now ask yourself this, because we can take that and we can turn it around. Let's say you're buying the books on Amazon. You can probably get some good deals on there and so forth. But can you also, instead of buying that book necessarily, try to find it at the library and not have to spend the money possibly? Yeah.
If
So.
I'm living right up to the limits, I would have to pay to have that.
And I will tell you, the Galena, library is not that good. I've been in there. There's not much. It looks like it's back from the 1970s when you go in
It's
there.
connected to the police station.
Yes.
And fire station.
Yes. Galena is very small.
You walk
It's
by
outdated.
village to go do books.
Yes. So yeah, I don't blame you too much on that front. But for those who live in Joplin, or who, hey, but you also can check out books from our library here as well, and they probably have quite a bit as well.
Fiction sections are about as big as Galena's.
Okay. So most of you probably are not reading his type of books, so I think you're going to be okay. But for the select few, just go to Lucas. After he's done reading it, you can borrow it from him, and you don't have to pay anything. So.
And some of the new stuff is like renting books. You can rent a book
Yeah.
for a lot cheaper. Some people like to keep their books, but if you rented them, you save a little money. That's still an opportunity to get what you want, but still manage your money a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. My wife does that, electronic books. She's constantly getting them from the library and stuff as well. And so she likes that, and it's a lot easier that way. So anything else you want to throw in there for wants?
Fishing equipment.
Fishing equipment, yes.
Yeah, that feeds you, doesn't it, Lee?
Hey, that's a
That's
need.
almost a need. Yeah.
Okay.
You gotta have the hot lure.
Now the question is that do you need a very expensive lure or just kind of your average one? So that's where you're trying to find ways to cut a little bit. It's like, do I really need to have that name brand one? It's the same thing with like clothes. Clothes, it can be a want and a need, depending on the circumstances. You do need clothes, or you're gonna, I guess you could have some brands or alienate some, but you don't have to have name brand clothes every time. Or if you do have name brand, can you find them at different outlets? For example, one place I like to shop at, and you can get a fairly decent price, is at Ross's. Some of us have gone to Ross's. I like it. It's name brand, but it's also a little bit cheaper. Instead of going to Old Navy and getting something, you can go there, get the same thing, but you're probably going to pay 30% less, for some of the items there. And now that I have a kid, we go there and get his clothes because it's cheaper than going to Toys R Us or one of those other places. And so you're constantly looking to find those deals, if you possibly can. So also sharing expenses. So maybe you have roommates or so forth, or you're living with your brother or sister or whatever it may be. You can split up some of those bills. And I think college life, I think it really works into that, because how many of us, have been in that situation or know someone that has like several roommates, where they're living together. And so we see a couple heads shaking, yes. The chances are one person is not paying all the bills. They are splitting those bills up a little bit. So also, consider the pros and cons of living on campus. Can you save more money living on campus? Depends on the circumstances. Okay, because a lot of times when you are living on campus, are all your bills included? Yeah. When I was in college, my wife and I, we always lived in the Mary student housing where we were at. And so I can tell you when we first started, my wife started college, I think it was around 2000, our rent there, at the college that she was at, East Central University, which is in Ada, Oklahoma, it was $275 in that range, all bills paid. It was awesome. 2-bedroom, and of course it looked like a prison because it was like cinder block. But hey, $275, I don't care. And so, but it was all bills paid. You didn't get cable or anything like that, but you got your electric and your water. It was basic. But that saved us. Now it continuously went up, while we were there. And even when I transferred to the college that I was at, we were paying around close to $350, but it was still all bills, included. Now obviously it's a lot more than that now. But you're still going to be saving that way. Also, look at the fact that, do you actually have to move out on your own? Or will your parents allow you to stay, in their house and not have to pay at least as much bills? Maybe you don't have to pay any, I don't know. But can you save money doing that? And so, how many of us, have utilized, that option? I know Lucas, because we've talked. He's never leaving his parents' house, by the way. He's going to be 40 and they're going to be paying his bills, so, but, okay. So there, but it really is good because I mean they understand that you're in college, you're trying to to create a better life for yourself, and they want you to take advantage of that. I mean all they're doing is trying to help you on that, and I think it's a good thing. I mean obviously you don't want to overstay your welcome like Lucas is going to do in the future, but you can actually save some money during that time. So maybe you have a little bit more money going towards your education, your books, so you don't have to get in as much debt, as some of them. So, some other stuff. Cutting costs. Use low, cost transportation. What do I mean by that? How can we use that? The trolley, possibly, you could do. What else? Carpool with Lucas. So, I mean, just have him pick you up. He'll take you to school. And so, but you can actually carpool with others. I mean, if you guys have a similar schedule, and let's say, maybe you drive, you pick them up on Tuesday, Thursday. They pick you up on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, depending on the circumstances. You can actually save some money. Now, I know some students have to commute. You ask yourself, do you know anyone in that town that you live in that you can commute with? I mean, that may be a possibility. I'm not commuting with Lucas, so we live right by each other. So, embrace secondhand goods, which we've talked about. You don't have to buy name brand. You don't have to go to the expensive stores to get that, like Dillard's or other places. I mean, you can find the same type of clothes for a cheaper price somewhere else. Avoid unnecessary fees. Give me an example of that. What's an unnecessary fee? Getting a ticket, yes. Now Lucas, he can help you around here, for tickets if you park in the wrong place here. He's the man. And so he has the power. So, but yes, you don't want tickets, you don't want to be speeding, you want to make sure you stop at that stop sign, not roll past it. I've done that a few times in my day, and have got caught. So what are some other things?
No late fees.
Okay, example.
Movies.
Movies.
Like Redbox gets me every time. I check it out for $1.25, and by the time I return it, I pay $12 for that movie.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good example there. Don't want to do that. And how many of us have done something similar to that, where we've got to take it back? And I mean, some of it's an honest mistake. We're sitting there watching TV, we're shuffling through some stuff, then you just realize I still have this movie. I mean, and then you're, oh my goodness, I mean, how much is it going to cost when I get there? And some of us decide, you know what, I'm not taking it back. It's past too late. I'm not seeing them again. I'm just never going to go to that place ever again for the rest of my life. And so, or book charges. I notice that happens sometimes. You forget to take your book back. Now, fortunately, they don't charge an enormous amount, but if you keep it long enough, I mean, it will add up to a little bit. So those are unnecessary fees, that you really don't have to be dealing with. One thing I like doing, and I know most people are probably moving away from it, I don't like paying my bills online. I just don't like doing it. I'd rather mail it. And so I got to buy my stamp and so forth. I got to do that. Of course, get my checks and stuff. I don't like doing the automatic deal. I'm just kind of old school. I'm just nervous about doing all that stuff online. I'm afraid there's, fraud and all hacking going. I mean, I'm nervous about it, so I don't like doing it as much. And so I go out there, I buy the stamps. I'm mailing stuff all the time, and everyone else is just paying all their stuff online. And so I mean, there is a convenience there to that, but I also worry. So I mean, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You do save money, I think, by paying it online. It's just I worry a little bit by having too much stuff online. So you kind of have that balance there. One of the experts, we won't go to his website, but I encourage you to go and look up Dave Ramsey. I mean, he's definitely American financial author, radio host, television personality. He has a lot of different like YouTube videos that you can watch where he gives you different lessons. What's very interesting about him is that he talks about how much debt that he was in and the bad spending habits that he had and how he had to overcome that. Now, what he did, not only did he overcome it, he used it, made a career out of it, and is now a multi-millionaire as a result. But he learned from his lessons, and I think that's always rings more true when you can talk to someone that's not only been there, they've been there and they've done that and they've overcome it. And so I think that truly does make a difference. So when he tells you about debt, you can actually listen to him and understand him because he's been there. I mean, it's a little bit different when you have someone that's always, had a lot of money and they're trying to explain to you, what you need to do. It's hard to really truly understand them because they probably haven't been in that situation. He has been in that situation, so I encourage you to go look at, things like his. What I'm going to have you do real fast, I'm going to have Mark go ahead and exit out of this real fast, not completely, because there's one slide left, but I want us to look at this PDF file that I have, and you have your copy. Now this I actually, had come up with some numbers, just to throw it in there to kind of see, shows you how it works. So the first part here, now you can go on Consumer Gov, you can go to Yahoo or Google, just type in, make a budget, then put consumer.gov. And it's going to pop up a link where you can go to this. There'll be a PDF file that you have to click on, download. And I would suggest when you download it, save it to your computer, your laptop, or whatever, and you can go and name it, my monthly budget, whatever you want, and you can use this every single month and go and change the the stuff that you want. So right now I put March on there, March 2015, and so every month you can go in there and you can change that. And then I would do is I either save each month or print it off, and you can evaluate what you do every month, for what you've done for that year if you choose to. And then right there it'll say paychecks, salary, taxes, benefits, and checks, cash fee. You want to put in your number of how much you think you're averaging a month, so your total income. And then you'll go down, to it breaks down the categories. My expenses this month, so we got housing, we got food, transportation. Now I put some numbers up there just to play with. So I have a $2,000 a month budget. Now I'm assuming that now some of you won't have that, but I mean if you think about maybe you and your boyfriend or with both of you, maybe you have close to that together or something, or less, but we'll say that. And so if we go in there and we look at first for housing, I put $500 for rent, basically. So $500 a month for rent, $200 for utilities. Now I'm factoring in electric and water or something in there. And so now some of you are going to have gas, and so obviously you need to add more for that. But I'm going kind of on an average there. For internet, cable, phone, I put $100. Am I even remotely close for you there? How many of us spend around $100 a month or more for that? Now some of us have a lot of plans, more than one phone. Okay, so but on average, I say we'll say $100 there. For groceries, I put $75, and then eating out, I put $100 because I figure they're, for us, we probably eat out a little bit more than we want to, compared to what we're doing at groceries. Now, give me an example of, for one of you, how much money you spend a month on groceries.
Probably, for me, my daughter, almost 300, but I would just eat out.
Okay, you don't eat out, so it's one deal. It's primarily that. And I would say, my wife and I, we're probably in that same area. Now we have a son as well, but we still kind of in that 300. We try to buy in bulk. We go to Sam's and stuff and buy in bulk and different things like that.
There's some things that are reduced by generic, but I usually try to buy.
Okay. And so what else? Ashley, how much do you spend a month in food? Now, which category do you consider yourself? Are you more of the groceries or are you more of the eating out?
It's probably, it's a little bit of both. We don't eat out very much.
Okay.
But we have meal plans. Yeah.
Okay, so you're paying for the meal plan, so you get X amount of meals, Okay.
But between groceries and eating out, on top of the meal plan, it's probably $20 a month maybe.
Okay, so really not too
We
much.
follow our meal plan
Okay.
as best we can.
Okay, that's good. Now, other foods, I just threw it in 25 because there might be something that you have to pick up or whatever. Because this you can just play with. You put different numbers in there, what you think are close to it. And then, of course, you look at transportation, gas. I figure, for some, they don't have to commute that much, so you're probably not spending as much in gas. So I put $80 in there. Now, you can put in more money than that. I can tell you, I definitely spend more than that a month, just counting my wife and I. We're closer, to about, 175, close to 200, depending on fluctuation of gas. Because she drives a Carthage and so forth and back. We live, just outside of Galena, so there's definitely some driving. Plus, we like to come in on the weekends because there's really nothing to do in Galena, so you're going to come here. And so, some other things there. So for car maintenance, I just threw in $30. It doesn't mean you're going to spend $30 a month on car maintenance. Maybe it's the windshield wipers you got to change, or gas, or oil, but. You don't necessarily have to do that every single month. So I just threw that in there. $75, I think, with car insurance, $250 a month car loan, possibly. Some other expenses I just threw in there, 50. You just never know. Medicine, I just threw in 50. Some of you are not going to have to worry about a monthly bill for medicine. Some of you will, some of you don't. Obviously, clothing, laundry, there's some stuff in there. Entertainment, that is definitely something I think most of us could put money, we could set a budget in that area. And then, you know, we continue to go down, and you see, you know, you've got for other, you know, personal or family expenses, you've got, you know, school costs. Now, this is like supplies, tuition, student loans. You can factor that in each month that you choose. Other expenses, I just threw that in there. And here's what, you know, what I find is important. It actually will, as you're typing all this stuff in, it's tallying up how much you're spending. That's what I like. You're not having to calculate any of this up. That's what makes it, you know, I think, you know, a little bit easier. And then what it does is it has down there at the bottom, it shows you what your income is, it shows you what your expenses are, and then it shows you what you have left over every month. So ask yourself, what can I be doing with that money that is left over? Is that money that I can, you know, hey, I've got $140 to go blow on anything I want? Or is that $140 I could be putting back in my rainy day fund in case the car breaks down, or whatever it may be? And so even if you don't make a lot of money, there are always ways that you can cut and still try to be able to put just a little bit in the saving. Even if it's $5 or $10 or $20 a month, that's still saving. You know, every penny counts there. And so, how many of us, you know, think that we might actually try this out just to see? Or some is like, that's going to require a lot of work. So we got some hands shaking. I would say test it out. Do 1 month. 1 month to test it out. Because even if you never use it again, at least it's going to give you a better idea of what you're spending, you know, what your bills are, and of course what you have most likely left over. So, so obviously tracking your spending allows you to actually use this. You know, so that first step that we talked about at the beginning, you know, tracking your spending, writing things down, that's going to allow you to be able to put more of an accurate number in this little, you know, this little PDF file. And so if you do want this, I mean, you can easily find it, you know, just get on Google or whatever. Also, you can always, you know, email me. I'll send you the deal. I mean, if you want me to do that, if you just don't want to mess trying to find it, just email me. I'll send it to you. Do we have any questions on this? And we'll go to the, back to the PowerPoint slide for the conclusion on there. So next slide here. So what do we learn? Creating a budget and tracking your money. That's the most important, you know, first step. Cutting costs is also important.